Canto 31, The Central Pit of Malebolgia, The Giants. Dante's spirits rise again as the poets approach the central pit, a great well, at the bottom of which lies Cocytus, the ninth and final circle of hell. Through the darkness, Dante sees what appears to be a city of great towers, but as he draws near, he discovers that the great shapes he has seen are the giants and titans who stand perpetual guard inside the well pit, with the upper halves of their bodies rising above the rim. Among the giants, Virgil identifies Nimrod, builder of the Tower of Babel, Ephialtes and Briareus, who warred against the gods, and Tityos and Typhon, who insulted Jupiter. Also here, but for no specific offense, is Antaeus, and his presence makes it clear that the giants are placed here less for their particular sins than for their general natures. These are the sons of earth, embodiments of elemental forces unbalanced by love, desire without restraint, and without acknowledgement of moral and theological law. They are symbols of the earth trace that every devout man must clear from his soul, the unchecked passions of the beast. Raised from the earth, they make the very gods tremble. Now they are returned to the darkness of their origins, guardians of earth's last depth. At Virgil's persuasion, Antaeus takes the poets in his huge palm and lowers them gently to the final floor of hell. One and the same tongue had first wounded me so that the blood came rushing to my cheeks and then supplied the soothing remedy. Just so, as I have heard, the magic steel of the lance that was Achilles and his father's could wound at a touch, and at another heal. We turned our backs on the valley and climbed from it to the top of the stony bank that walls it round, crossing in silence to the central pit. Here it was less than night and less than day. My eyes could make out little through the gloom, but I heard the shrill note of a trumpet bray, louder than any thunder. As if by force it drew my eyes. I stared into the gloom along the path of the sound back to its source. After the bloody rout, when Charlemagne had lost the band of holy knights, Roland blew no more terribly for all his pain. And as I started through that obscurity, I saw what seemed a cluster of great towers, whereat I cried, "Master, what is this city?" And he, "You are still too far back in the dark to make out clearly what you think you see. It is natural that you should miss the mark. You would see clearly when you reach that place how much your eyes mislead you at a distance. I urge you, therefore, to increase your pace." Then taking my hand in his, my master said, "The better to prepare you for strange truth, let me explain those shapes you see ahead. They are not towers, but giants. They stand in the well from the navel down, and stationed round its bank they mount guard on the final pit of hell. Just as a man in a fog that starts to clear begins little by little to piece together the shapes the vapor crowded from the air, so when those shapes grew clearer as I drew across the darkness to the central brink, error fled from me, and my terror grew. For just as at Monteregione the great towers crown the encircling wall, so the grim giants whom Jove still threatens when the thunder roars, raised from the rim of stone about that well the upper halves of their bodies, which loomed up like turrets through the murky air of hell. I had drawn close enough to one already to make out the great arms along his sides, the face, the shoulders, the breast, and most of the belly. Nature, when she destroyed the last exemplars on which she formed those beasts, surely did well to take such executioners from Mars. And if she has not repented the creation of whales and elephants, the thinking man will see in that her justice and discretion. For where the instrument of intelligence is added to brute power and evil will, mankind is powerless in its own defense. His face, it seemed to me, was quite as high and wide as the bronze pine cone in St. Peter's, with the rest of him proportioned accordingly, so that the bank which made an apron for him from the waist down still left so much exposed that 3 Frieslanders standing on the rim, one on another, could not have reached his hair. For to that point at which men's capes are buckled, 30 good handspans of brute bulk rose clear. "Raphael mahi amek zabi almit," began a bellowed chant from brute mouth, for which no sweeter psalmody was fit. And my guide in his direction, "Babbling fool, stick to your horn and vent yourself with it, when rage or passion stir your stupid soul. Feel there around your neck, you muddle head, and find the cord, and there's the horn itself. There on your overgrown chest." To me he said, "His very babbling testifies the wrong he did on earth. He is Nimrod, through whose evil mankind no longer speaks a common tongue. Waste no words on him, it would be foolish. To him all speech is meaningless, as his own, which no one understands, is simply gibberish." We moved on, bearing left along the pit, and a crossbow shot away we found the next one, an even huger and more savage spirit. An even huger and more savage spirit. What master could have bound so gross a beast I cannot say, but he had his right arm pinned behind his back, and the left across his breast by an enormous chain that wound about him from the neck down, completing 5 great turns before it spiraled down below the rim. "This piece of arrogance," said my guide to me, tried his strength against the power of Jove, for which he is rewarded as you see. He is Ephialtes, who made the great endeavor with the other giants who alarmed the gods. The arms he raised then now are bound forever. "Were it possible, I should like to take with me," I said to him, "the memory of seeing the immeasurable Briareus." And he, "Nearer to hand you may observe Antaeus, who is able to speak to us and is not bound. It is he will set us down in Cocytus, the bottom of all guilt. The other hulk stands far beyond our road. He, too, is bound and looks like this one, but with a fiercer sulk." No earthquake in the fury of its shock ever seized a tower more violently than Ephialtes' hearing began to rock. Then I dreaded death as never before, and I think I could have died for very fear had I not seen what manacles he wore. We left the monster, and not far from him we reached Antaeus, who to his shoulders alone soared up a good 5 ells above the rim. O soul, who once in Zama's fateful vale, where Scipio became the heir of glory, when Hannibal and all his troops turned tail, took more than 1,000 lions for your prey, and in the whose memory many still believe the sons of earth would yet have won the day had you joined with them against high Olympus, do not disdain to do us a small service, but set us down where the cold grips Cocytus. Would you have us go to Tityos or Typhon? This man can give you what is longed for here, therefore do not refuse him, but bend down, for he can still make new your memory. He lives and awaits long life, unless grace call him before his time to his felicity. Thus my master to that tower of pride, and the giant without delay reached out the hands which Hercules had felt, and raised my guide. Virgil, when he felt himself so grasped, called to me, "Come, and I will hold you safe." And he took me in his arms and held me clasped. The way the Caracenda seems to one who looks up from the leaning side when clouds are going over it from that direction, making the whole tower seem to topple, so Antaeus seemed to me in the fraught moment when I stood clinging, watching from below, as he bent down, while I with heart and soul wished we had gone some other way, but gently he set us down inside the final hole, whose ice holds Judas and Lucifer in its grip, then straightened like a mast above a ship. Notes. 5. Achilles' lance. Peleus, father of Achilles, left this magic lance to his son. Sonneteers of Dante's time made frequent metaphoric use of this lance, just as the lance could cure and then heal, so could the lady's look destroy with Jove, and her kiss make whole. 14:15. Stared along the path of the sound. Another of Dante's peculiar reports of how the senses work. He treats his eyes here as if they were radio compasses tracking a beam. There is not another man in literature who would anatomize this reaction in this way. Compare with this the opening of Canto 20 and the note on Dante's peculiar treatment of his vision. Line 17, Roland, nephew of Charlemagne, hero of the French epic poem, the Chanson de Roland. He protected the rear of Charlemagne's column on the return march through the Pyrenees. from a war against the Saracens. When he was attacked, he was too proud to blow his horn as a signal for help, but as he was dying, he blew so prodigious a blast that it was heard by Charlemagne 8 miles away. Band of Holy Knights, the original is La Santa Gesta, which may be interpreted as the Holy Undertaking. Gesta, however, can also mean a sworn band or fellowship of men at arms, such as the Knights of the Round Table, and since it was his knights rather than his undertaking that Charlemagne lost, the second rendering seems more apt in context. Monteregione, a castle in Val d'Elsa near Siena built in 1213. Its walls had a circumference of more than half a kilometer and were crowned by 14 great towers, most of which are now destroyed. 59. The bronze pine cone in St. Peter's. Originally a part of a fountain, in Dante's time it stood in front of the Basilica of St. Peter. It is now inside the Vatican. It stands about 13 feet high. Scartazzini Vandelli give the height as 4 meters, but shows signs of mutilation that indicate it was once higher. Many translations incorrectly render the original La Pina as pine tree. In Italian, pino is pine tree and pina is pine cone. Like most of Dante's measurements, it is a poetical rather than a literal assistance in determining the height of the giants. How tall is a man whose face is 13 feet long? If the face represents 1/6 of a man's height, a minimum figure will be 78 feet, but other interpretations of Dante's details will yield figures ranging from 40 to 100 feet. Lines 65 to 66, for example, would yield a figure between 300 and 474 inches for the measurement from the waist to roughly the collarbone. 63. Frieslanders. The men of Friesland were reputed to be the tallest in Europe. 66. 30 good handspans. Dante uses the word palma, which in Italian signifies the spread of the open hand, a considerably larger measure than the English hand, which equals 4 inches. The Dante Society edition of the comedy equals 10 palms to 4 meters, or 158 inches, but 15.8 inches seems excessive. 10 inches would seem closer to a good handspan. 67. Raphael, Mahi, etc. This line, as Virgil explains below, is Nimrod's gibberish. 77. Nimrod, the first king of Babylon, supposed to have built the Tower of Babel, for which he is punished, in part, by the confusion of his own tongue and understanding. Nothing in the biblical reference portrays him as one of the earth giants. 94. Ephialtes, son of Neptune, the sea, and Iphimedia, with his brother Otis. He warred against the gods, striving to pile Mount Ossa on Mount Olympus and Mount Pelion on Mount Ossa. Apollo restored good order by killing the two brothers. 99. Briareus, another of the giants who rose against the Olympian gods. Virgil speaks of him as having 100 arms and 50 hands. But Dante has need only of his size and of his sin, which he seems to view as a kind of revolt of the angels, just as the action of Ephialtes and Otis may be read as a pagan distortion of the Tower of Babel legend. He was the son of Uranus and Tellus. 100. Antaeus, the son of Neptune and Tellus, the earth. In battle his strength grew every time he touched the earth, his mother. He was accordingly invincible until Hercules killed him by lifting him over his head and strangling him in mid-air. Lucan describes Antaeus's great lion-hunting feat in the valley of Zama, where, in a later era, Scipio defeated Hannibal. Antaeus did not join in the rebellion against the gods, and therefore he is not chained. 123. Cocytus, the final pit of hell. See the remaining cantos. 124. Tityos or Typhon, also sons of Tellus. They offended Jupiter, who had them hurled into the crater of Etna, below which the lake Tartarus was supposed to lie. 136. The Caracenda, a leaning tower of Bologna.